Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul, and in this Rig Into the Con video, we're going to be tackling both Ryzen, Intel's price cuts, and also a little bit on Nvidia's GTX 1080 Ti, but we'll get to that last. So first of all, I want to discuss something that's rather important, imperative if you will, with the B350 motherboards. So just for those who are not too familiar with Ryzen, the X370 represents the very high end, the B350 is like, you know, the quite nice boards, and then the A320 are more the budget orientated boards. Now, the important thing is that the X370 comes with all the bells and whistles. So, in other words, you've got Crossfire, you have SLI support, you've obviously got, you know, all of the USB 3.1s, USB 3 connectors, SATA 6, and all of that stuff. And it and the B350 support overclocking. However, there is supposedly a problem with the B350s. No, it's not that they're badly made or they explode. It is that they do not, I repeat, do not support SLI, according to computerbase.de. This information, from what I understand, is still under NDA. And this is despite the fact that motherboards and Ryzen are available for pre-order. So, what does that mean? Well, if you have, let's say, two RX 480s, for example, or any AMD graphics card configuration in Crossfire, ignore me, it's fine, it doesn't make a difference. But let's say you've got two GTX 1070s and you have a B350 order, or pre-ordered, then you might have some problems. And I actually don't really like the fact that they've not told us this, if this is accurate, and it looks like it is, judging from the information we're being told. Another thing that I'd like to point out is a statement from Asus, which is then published by Overclockers UK. Small little caveat, I actually used to post on this forum back in the day, and I used to be a moderator way back in the day, but this was several years ago. So essentially, this is a comment from Asus, and Overclockers UK have also did some due diligence on this. So, basically, it's got down to do rather with BIOSes. You might recall that there were some bugs with early production silicon with Ryzen, and basically then AMD started to work on the BIOS to improve the performance of the chips. What this is basically meant is that compatibility of some DIMMs, memory modules, is not that great with Ryzen. I'll read out the statement. As it stands, AMD code has restricted RAM tuning options which means many RAM kits at launch will not be compatible. This is also the same for our competitors. In other words, they're saying about Asus, so this is from Asus's perspective. What we recommend is the following. If fully populating a system with 4 DIMMs, 2D PC, use memory up to a max of 2400 MHz. In other words, if you have all 4 RAM slots filled up, only use RAM up to 2400 MHz for best compatibility. If using 1D PC, in other words, you only have 2 sticks of RAM, ensure they installed in slots A2 and B2, and your memory configuration can be up to 3200 MHz. They have also said that from AMD are working on all their efforts on PC on CPU performance, but there will be another BIOS update which is released over the next couple of months, and that will basically focus on DDR4 compatibility and performance. So in short, just to clarify, and I really want to make this clear because obviously people are making orders right now, and I don't want there to be any ambiguity, because I've actually had quite a few messages on this very subject. If you are unsure of your configuration, wait for reviewers, and that goes for both SLI, the B350 support, and memory. If you're unsure, go for reviewers. If you have SLI and you've got the extra money, then definitely go for an X370 board. For memory, if you have 2 sticks of RAM, you should theoretically be okay up to a configuration of 3200 MHz. If you have 4 sticks, then by golly gosh, you can't go any higher than 2400 MHz, which might mean you won't be able to enable, let's say, I don't know, XMP. Now, obviously we don't have a large enough sample size, and I don't have a Ryzen configuration available to hand. We will be buying one, So what I'm basically saying to you is it might mean you might have to put extra voltage through the RAM. It might mean that you just plain won't be able to get it working. So let's say you've got a 4x4 setup. You might mean if you want to go higher than, let's say, 2400 megahertz, you might only have 8 gigabytes, which sucks balls, quite frankly, for Windows 10 and high-end gaming. So you would then have the choice of like, well, do you want to go for faster RAM? A new RAM setup. So in other words, you'd buy like, you know, a new kit, or would you just simply wait until the BIOS updates are available? Personally, if you are buying the memory with this, then it's not too big of a deal. But what I personally would recommend, if you have any qualms about this whatsoever, especially if like you've got a good CPU, I'm not saying don't buy Ryzen, I'm just saying wait for either reviews or wait until, you know, the BIOS updates start rolling out, because quite frankly, otherwise you're just kind of making guesses. Like there's a lot of boards available, like from Asus, from MSI, ASRock, and so on. But we know there's going to be an 82 on launch. So I'm not saying don't order Ryzen. I'm not saying Ryzen is a bad processor. Just to clarify, I'm just saying that it's quite early at the moment. So certain boards might have issues which might need to be resolved via BIOS update. The Crosshair board has achieved 3000 to 3200 megahertz. This is according to Gibbo, who once again is a staff member at Overclockers UK. But many were only able to hit the 2400 to 2666 megahertz range. But he does assure us BIOS updates will come. So, once again, that's just, just letting you know. So, you know, you can take the advice or not. It's up to you. Anyway, moving on. Now, this is a bit of news from a Turkey. One of Turkey's oldest and biggest hardware and technology reviewers, and I'm probably going to butcher the name, so I can only apologise. Donam Haber have actually put out a video where they're discussing Ryzen performance and overclocking capability. They do not provide screenshots or anything like that, so they only give it as like a discussion piece. However, they have said that Ryzen 7 1800X, which is obviously the most expensive one, it's essentially $500, have said that they have the performance that is actually outpacing the 6950X. To put that into perspective, that's a 10-core processor. And the beauty of this is it's actually outperforming the 7700K in single-threaded performance. And that's with a Nocta U12 SE AM4 cooler. And how this is achieved, supposedly, isn't through a miracle of tweaking. They haven't gone in, started raising the voltages, increased the FSB, and then increased the multiplier, then increased the voltages, and, the traditional overclocking, which we all know. Instead, they just clicked one-click manual auto overclocking. I'm just going to repeat that. So basically, they clicked a button, and it's pretty much battered the Intel Core i7-6950X. And according to them, we managed to overclock our 1800X sample cooled by the cooler unit provided by AMD in the reviewer's kit. We managed to surpass 7700K in single-threaded performance, and temperatures were great, no concerns. You can achieve a good overclocking result with one click. You don't even have to bother with manual overclocking. So, yeah, that's pretty impressive. Now, obviously, you're going to spend like $500 for that CPU and the requisite cooler and the requisite, motherboard and all that stuff, but it's still a lot cheaper. Just to put this into some level of perspective for you, the 6950X is about, on Amazon currently, about $1,500, and that's used. So, in other words, it's kind of expensive. And that's just something to bear in mind. Speaking of Intel, another little thing, retailers are actually cutting prices of the 7700K, the 7600K, and the 6600K. I'm not going to go through the whole listing of all of them, but there are multiple. It's already started on a couple of retailers in the United Kingdom. They're starting to either bundle it with a lot of games. And I've noticed, actually, as a slight aside, Intel have been freaking aggressive with adverts recently on Facebook. And I don't mean like the ads on the side, I mean sponsored, like the sponsored stories. Because obviously I've got a lot of likes, which are like technology related, whether it's AMD, I'm liking Intel as well, and, Nvidia, all the different companies, because obviously, I need to keep up with the news. And they have actually started to really promote it, and they've been putting out a lot of sponsored content at the moment, and they've also started to push other e-tailers to do it. And I'm not, blaming anyone, but it's like, Green Man Gaming are constantly posting now about the Intel deals. So, for example, the 6950X, as I said, it's got like a price cut at the moment on Micro Center of like $300. So you can actually pick up the 7700K with $80 off right now. It's like $300. And you can pick up other CPUs like the 6600K for about $180. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is because if you happen to have already a, Z170 board or what have you, and you're thinking of just a small upgrade, well, this is not a bad time to do it, especially if you don't want to jump on to Ryzen, which is fair enough. I mean, if you've already got a pre-configured computer and all you just want to do is just simply change the CPU, then it's not particularly too difficult to do that. I mean, even the 5820K is like $300 at the moment, which is absolutely a bargain. It is a pretty good bargain. It is, however, going to screw over people who are trying to sell their systems on eBay. So that might be another good option as well. For folks who perhaps are just new to PC gaming, you might be able to grab yourself a bargain. God knows what the 4770Ks are going to be going for. Probably had to pick them up for like pennies, which is really good if you're once again getting into PC gaming. Okay, so there is a lot of other Ryzen news out at the moment. The problem is, a lot of it, to be honest, I'm kind of suspect on, and I'm recording this quite late at night, so I don't want to just report some benchmarks without doing a lot more due diligence on them. There are some reports that have been sent to me which tells me that the CPU, for example, is drastically outperforming the 7700K in single thread performance, and a few other bits and pieces at stock. But I don't want to give too much information on those because, as I said, I need to do some due diligence because some of the websites that are reporting this are not giving their sources. So, because they're not giving sources and giving, basically credence to the rumor, credit to the rumor, I don't want to necessarily jump on it. But what I will say, just once again, is the GTX 1080 Ti. There are more reports that are popping up on different websites that basically reinforce videocards.com. Now, videocards.com, to be fair to them, they are typically pretty accurate when it comes to rumors. They are stating it's going to be mid-March. A couple of other websites are also starting to report the same thing. So that means the Ti is, and yes, I'm going to be calling it the Ti, because I don't like the word Ti. In fact, I believe an Nvidia employee actually went on record and said it is actually pronounced Ti because it's like titanium. But anyway, that's beside the point. Another rumor is, we covered this a couple of days ago, the GTX 1060 Ti is also coming, and that's from videocards.com. So all of these rumors are basically telling us that it's going to be available in retail mid-March to late March. Some of the rumors are putting it in late March, some of them are mid-March. The problem I have with this primarily is Vega, but I don't mean that in like Vega's going to torpedo it. I mean, we just don't know. It's like, it's very difficult to really, basically Vega is either going to be really just destroying the 1080 Ti, or it's going to be kind of disappointing. The problem is we just don't know enough about the Vega lineup. In other words, we don't A, know about the pricing, B, know about the SKUs, where they fall at all, and C, because the performance we have with Vega is with crappy drivers, I'm just being blunt, and also from pre-production hardware, to be blunt, we just can't get an indication. Hopefully at the Capsation event we'll know a lot more. So obviously if we can start seeing, okay, this is, let's say for example, they say that, and just using this as a pure example, the flagship is going to have 64 compute units, 4096 SPs total, stream processors total, and that, rather shaders total, and that is running at 1500-ish megahertz, and that's putting out 12.5 T flops, and they perhaps reveal a little more information about how the different units are going to trickle down, and then they say, okay, this is going to be, and then maybe release a couple of extra benchmarks so we can say, okay, this is definitely going to be how it's going to perform. But right now, it's kind of like in a vacuum. And with that, combined with the fact that Pascal refresh, some people are reporting Pascal refresh is going to happen, some people are saying it's not, but we do know that NVIDIA are not going to sit on their laurels for another 12 months. So it's just kind of weird at the moment in the graphics card. Like the CPU, AMD have this like in the bag, because as I've reported like 1,000 times, I just don't know how Intel can really counter other than the price cuts, which I'm glad about, because it means that really it's like it's Intel's time to kind of eat some humble pie, cut their prices, get the sales in where they can, and basically prepare themselves for Coffee Lake and all these other new CPUs. And do remember that 8th generation Intel processors supposedly have like a 15% IPC gain over the older generation. Now, whether that turns out to be true or not, we'll have to just wait and see. But that's what Intel are promising us. And if that's true, that could be really good news for us, especially once you start factoring in Coffee Lake, which is basically mainstream 6 cores, 12 threads. Anyway, I think that's just about it for this particular video. It's been a bit of a randomized collection of stuff, but some of the news was like kind of very rumorish. Like the 1080 stuff is like, you know, we've already kind of reported it, but I just wanted to give a small update. But the pricing stuff for Intel I find is really interesting, and the main purpose of the video, to be totally honest, was the no SLI support for B350s and also the memory configuration, because I know obviously people are kind of figuring out what the hell to buy right now with Ryzen. So I figure that's probably the main important part of the video. I will be putting out stuff over the next couple of days. I know I keep saying it, but the computer review is almost done. We've got all the benchmarks. I'm finishing with the article. Basically, the article is written. The script is being written, so hopefully that should be up Tuesday. We've got 3 graphics cards reviews. And then after that, with any luck, all of our Ryzen stuff will arrive. And I will be building that, hopefully on camera, with any luck. And that shall be uploaded. And then after that, we can start doing some benchmarks. And I'll probably start doing some benchmarks with just random games, testing, that type of stuff. And hopefully, because we've got some memory kits, I'm going to also stalk one of my partners as well at Crucial and get them to send over another memory stick set as well. Hopefully we can start doing some really good memory configuration testing, figure out what actually is going on, what clock speed we can get out of the Ryzen. And then also we've got some other bits and pieces coming up as well. So thank you very much for sticking with us, and also thank you for everyone who's messaging us. I know I haven't tackled some of the rumours in this particular video, primarily because it's already 9:15 here at the UK, and that's PM obviously, and also because I want to kind of do a bit more due diligence on a couple of the rumours. But with all of that said, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.